Hey everybody, thank you for joining me on another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie blog. Like you know already, my name is Jordan Banderas and this is the place where I share my stories. Now, just a quick reminder, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the blog or the podcast. So let's get to it. Before I start, thank you for all the support I've been receiving. I have received very good feedback in regards to these episodes on emails. But like always, you can comment, you can share, you can subscribe, you can do however you want to say it. You can do whatever you need to do to send me your feedback because I want to improve this for the community as well. And if you have any questions for me, send them on the email or do a comment or send them on Facebook. I will try to answer them as soon as I can. Now, I already talked about my little love story, which I kind of felt ashamed how my love story with my wife was kind of like small, like short and everything. But that's pretty much how it was. It wasn't like a freaking movie or anything like that. And one of the things that she reminded me that I didn't talk about on that particular episode, it's about the way that I proposed to her, and this is no joke. So guys, if you do something like this or something not as big as that type of proposal, it's okay. I actually proposed from sitting down on a recliner. I just said like, "Hey, you wanna get married?" And she's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." And that's how I proposed. That's how we got married. And 5 years later, she's still with me. So, hey, it's not my fault. She said yes. So anyway, on today's episode, I want to talk about what happened when she became ill. When she became a Spoonie and I became a caregiver. Because that's pretty much, that happened like literally 2 years into our marriage. 2 years and a month. So, like I mentioned on the previous episode or on another episode, we were doing great. She was having multiple jobs. She was a workaholic. She started a business because I started working for a company that's paying me good. So I told her, like, once I start working for this company, you're going to be able to quit your job. And she did. She quit her job. She started her own business. She was selling clothes. She was doing good. But the thing is that she was working sometimes like 20 hours a day. And I didn't like it. But it's like, that's how she is. She knows what she's doing. Like, I can't really control her. So she did that for a few months. And one of the things about my wife, and I have talked about this on the podcast, she has depression and anxiety. Very bad. So in January of 2017, and I don't hold it against her, but it was around my birthday actually. And like I said, I don't hold it against her. She thinks that I hold it against her, but I don't. Like, I really don't care. I just want to make sure that she's fine. So around this time, I remember, like, I took days off work because of my birthday was soon. My birthday was going to be within a few days. So I was like, I'm going to take a few days off. So I took a few days off. And I remember that we were talking. And she was washing some dishes. And she was telling me that she wasn't feeling good. Like, she felt like that something was wrong with her mind. This is what she said. It's like, I feel like there's something wrong. And I was like, what's going on? So we started talking. I don't remember exactly what she said. And I was like, I hope you're not having a mental breakdown. And then she stopped washing the dishes. She stops washing the dishes and looks down and goes to lay down on the couch and starts screaming like uncontrollable and crying. And I'm like, holy crap. She is having a mental breakdown. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. The dogs were scared. I was scared. I was like, okay, what do I do? And she's like, give me a pill. I tried to give her a pill. I mistakenly gave her the wrong pill. Instead of giving her a pill for anxiety, I gave her a sleeping pill. which it didn't really help her anyway. So I gave her the wrong pill. I'm like, I don't know what to do. She's like, call 911, call 911. So I call 911. The cops show up because I'm like, oh, my wife has a mental breakdown and everything. And they're like, oh, is she suicidal or anything? I'm like, no, she's fine. She's just laying down. So just send help because I didn't know what to do. So the cops, for some reason, show up. The cops go inside. I'm talking to the cops. My wife is like freaking out. And the cops, I don't know, because of their training, they go into ready mode. They literally grab their guns. And I'm in between them and my wife. I'm like, oh, shit. Like I'm literally like I step in between them and my wife. I'm like, she's okay, because they were ready. Like if she was acting up, probably they were gonna tase her or shoot her. Like I don't know what was gonna happen, but they were holding their guns, like ready to, in case that something happened. So I'm like, oh, she's okay. Then the freaking ambulance shows up and they take her to the hospital. And what happened? Oh, that was the worst part about it, because we go to the hospital. And then she tells me like, oh, there was something wrong with my medicine. The doctor never refilled them, and I haven't taken my medicine for the last 7 days. And I'm like, at first I was like mad at the doctor, but I was like, okay, forget about that. Let's see what we can do about you right now. Like let's focus on you. Let's make sure that you're okay. So the nurse, we're at the ER. We're trying to help her. They're trying to get her the medicine. We get this doctor, and this is why I hate the medical system here, because it's not about the doctors or anything like that. It's more about like how they get paid. And one of the things that came up because of the pandemic is the way that they get paid. Like ER doctors and all of these doctors for this particular healthcare system, I'm not going to call it out or anything like that, they get paid by volume. The more people they see, the more they make. And this came out on the newspaper. When I saw that, I was like, no wonder why they suck. No wonder why they're so bad. So anyway, the doctor comes and the doctor is asking my wife, like, what exactly do you want? My wife is all like, I want help. And we tell him about what happened with the medicines or anything like that. And he's all like, I'm not going to give you any meds. I don't know what you want me to do. My wife is so like, I just need help. And he's so like, well, I can't help you. So that made my wife even worse, because the doctor leaves. And we have somebody watching my wife because of the mental breakdown. So my wife, it's upset because of what the doctor said. The doctor pretty much said, like, this is on you. Like, literally, he said, like, there's nothing that I can do for you. Like, you have to work through it, literally. That's what he said. So, I don't know what to do, because this is the first time that I'm dealing with something like this. So, I'm trying to, like, calm her down. And she grabs her oximeter and wraps it around her neck. And she's like, I'm done with this life. And she tries to, like, choke herself. I'm fighting her. I'm like, no. I'm fighting her. I'm literally fighting her. My wife is not strong. Let me tell you this. My wife is not strong. But somehow, that day, she was strong. So I'm trying to fight her. The guy that is watching us, he's all like, do you need help? I'm like, yes. She's trying to choke herself. So everybody shows up, all these doctors and nurses. And they're like, oh, do we need to sedate you? And I'm like, dude. I'm literally like, dude, what the hell? Like, you said that you can't help us. Like, what you want her to do? Like, she's desperate. She doesn't want medicine, but she just wants somebody to listen. And the doctors decided to send her to a mental hospital or a mental clinic, which, unfortunately, here in Salt Lake, that particular clinic, it's the worst. Because she went there, and she never really got the help she needed. My wife needed therapy, a good therapist. The therapist there told her, like, oh, after you get out and everything, I'm gonna help you. But he never did. Like, literally, he will set up an appointment for my wife to go see him after she get out, and he was never there. So my wife was desperate. I was desperate. But here's the thing, though, and this is why I'm bringing this up. this particular episode with my wife changed our lives because we lost the business. We lost that income. We lost her ability to drive. She couldn't drive after that. So I had to take time off work. I almost got fired because I was over the attendance points or whatever. So I had to talk to my work and be like, listen, this is what's happening. This is what I did. This is what happened. And they were like, okay, we'll give you one last chance because I was only like a point away from getting fired. They're like, but if you're late at least 5 minutes, you're gonna get fired. So for 7 months, yeah, because I got my FMLA on September. So for 7 months, I literally was on time and I never missed a day of work for 7 months straight because I knew that I needed to keep that job so I could provide health insurance for my wife. At that point, I understood that it became about my wife, not even about me. I was like, I'm gonna take care of my wife. So to make the story short, I was struggling with this. We lost the house that we were renting because we couldn't afford it anymore. So we had to live with my in-laws, which it was hard, but they were helping as well. So I will also have to take time of work sometimes, obviously approved, to take her to the doctor visits. Like we saw so many doctors couldn't do anything. And I don't want to get too much into detail. That will be for other stories. But we saw in a period of, let's say, I would say until last year, that's when we finally started getting like new doctors that will understand. In a period of 2 years or less than 2 years, we saw, we'll say, 8 doctors, 8 different types of doctors, multiple therapists, a lot of doctors that literally were not paying attention to my wife's needs, and that's what hurt her the most because she just wants help. She just wants somebody to help her, not with medication or anything, but mentally. So that changed the whole dynamic of our marriage because it was stressful. I had to take time off work to take her to the doctors. I had to make sure that she was okay when I was at work. Like I will have to call her like on my breaks and on my lunch. Now it was hard. So if you're going to a change like that, let me tell you, it's not easy. It's gonna be the hardest change. It could be with your spouse or it could be with your kid or a parent or a family member that you need to take care of. It's gonna be hard. This type of change is gonna be the hardest type of change that you will ever have to deal with. And one of the things that you have to understand in my case is that I was mentally broken. I when this happened, I hadn't dealt with my PTSD yet. I was still angry inside, so I was snapping at my wife. I was trying not to. We were still fighting sometimes because now I was under a lot of stress. I was under so much stress. I was under so much stress that we were arguing multiple times a day sometimes. So that was the hardest part of our marriage, where we were arguing, we were fighting because I wasn't holding it against her getting sick. She thought I was holding it against her, but now obviously we talked about it and she knows that I don't hold anything against her. And I hope that you don't hold, if you're the caregiver listening to this or you're the Spoonie, don't hold anything against the Spoonie or don't hold anything against yourself, because sometimes this type of illnesses, autoimmune diseases, mental breakdowns is out of our control because of the way that we were raised, the way that society expects us to act, and we try to fit into that mold, into a square peg. We're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, pretty much. So that's how it feels. That's how it feels to me, because my wife has a lot of anxiety because of the way that she was raised. I'm not gonna talk about how she was raised. That's her story to share. But because of the way that she was raised, because of the of everything that she was told, she has anxiety. She has depression because of things that she has suffered. So it's like, okay, at that point when she started opening up to me, I realized that she needed therapy and good doctors. So for 2 freaking years, almost 2 years, I did the research for doctors. I did the research about her conditions, because during this time we started getting more and more diagnoses like fibromyalgia, uh, bipolar. There, she has issues with her hip. She has issues with her lower back. She has autoimmune diseases. She had whooping cough at one time. She had she has this bacteria on her stomach that won't go away. We're still fighting that, so she's going through a lot at this point. So I had to let her know, hey, just take care of yourself. I will take care of everything else. I took care of the finances. I took care of searching for doctors. I took care of driving her because she wasn't able to drive. So it was so stressful. So if you're going through something like this, I understand how stressful you is. Yeah, I mean you are, or how stressed you are, because literally I age. After this happened, before this happened, probably like a few months before when I started my job, we took a picture for the ID, and then after my wife got sick, or after my wife got ill, I look at the two pictures. I took a picture after, and I was like, wow, I age a lot because of the stress. And I don't blame my wife. I do not blame my wife, and this is the important part. This is why I'm sharing this, because don't blame your spouse, don't blame your kid, don't blame yourself for getting sick. I know that a lot of marriages are struggling because either the kid gets sick or the spouse gets sick, and then one of the spouses will hold resentment. I was lucky enough that when resentment started to build, I was like, it's not her fault. Like she didn't do this on purpose, and I knew, like I had mentioned in the previous episode, I knew that she was sick, so I knew what I was getting into. And another thing that at least with me, this is very important. This is why I said on a previous episode that it's important for you to be honest with yourself, and if your spouse or your partner is sick, I want them to be as honest as possible, because when I got married with my wife, I knew that she couldn't have kids. I knew that she had a stroke. So I was like, I knew that something might happen, and I knew that I would have to take care of her. Now, when she became ill, there was only one choice for me: a step up or step down. And because my grandpa took care of my grandma, who was in a wheelchair for most of her life, literally since she was little, I was like, if my grandpa could do it, I know I can. So that's when I realized that I could do this. And obviously I was still broken at the time, and I'm still going through my own journey of rediscovering myself and everything. But even at the point where I was broken, before being diagnosed with PTSD, before having to go to therapy, I realized that I was going to take care of my wife no matter what. I made that choice. So, one of the things that I want to let you know, if you feel like you can't handle this type of change, if you have a change like this going on in your life, the best thing that you can do is communicate with your partner, work together, build that team. If before this happened before this change happened in your life, or like it happened in my life, like our team wasn't strong enough, and we started building our team again. I know, like I said, we argue a lot, we got in fights, especially with living with my in-laws, because it was hard. But like I mentioned, they helped us too, so I appreciate that. So we hit rock bottom. We lost pretty much everything. We literally went bankrupt because of medical bills. And that's another thing that I'm gonna talk about probably on the podcast, is that even though we had insurance, we some of the actual bills that were supposed to be covered by the insurance didn't cover it. So I know what it's like to hit rock bottom. I know what it's like to be so stressed, like literally you just want to give up. There were times that I was like, I asked myself, and my wife knows this because we talked about it. But we talk about it. She knows that there were times where I felt like I wanted to quit and be like, this isn't for me. But it's like, I love my wife. I knew that I love my wife, and because of those feelings that I have for her, I was like, I'm not gonna give up on her. And I told her, every time I tell her, like, I haven't given up on you because I love you. And we had our disagreements, we had our fights, and I know it's hard. But we have been able to get through the worst part of her illness, which is like the beginning, because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So I learned. And the same thing is going to happen to you if you're the Spoonie, or if you're the caregiver. You don't know what exactly you're going to have to do. You just have to learn. You're not prepared for this. Nobody's going to be prepared for this. I wasn't prepared for this. And I learned. I learned by talking to my wife, researching online what I needed to do. Like, during this time, my wife has had 2 surgeries on her hip. 2. And the first one was a mistake, that she didn't need it, or we think that she didn't need it, but the doctor didn't want to do the correct procedure. So we ended up doing it because we didn't know what she actually needed. But then now that we fixed one of the issues, she's doing better on her hip. So it's like things if you're going through something like this, things might feel like everything is happening at once. And that's how it felt for me. Because we got all these diagnoses, we got all these things, and then and it was hard. It was hard. The reason why it was hard is because we lost everything. We lost friends. We lost people that said like, "Oh, I will always be there for you." Literally left us. Like one of my wife's best friends left, and literally she fell alone. So for the longest, it was just me and my wife. Literally, it was just me and my wife. And if you're going to something like that, something similar like that, it's okay if it's only you and your wife. I know it's hard. I know the illness, it's gonna be stressful, depending on what it is. It could be mental health, or it could be physical health. Whatever you're facing right now, let me tell you, you can get through this. Because remember, this happened before I was diagnosed with PTSD. This happened before I was able to control all those feelings that were buried inside of me. So I was angry at that point, but not at my wife. Everything, because of everything that happened to me growing up, I was angry at that. What am I going to do? I'm going to project it. My wife gets sick. I was stressed. What I'm going to do? I'm going to get mad and I'm going to project it. So even through that, we were able to work things out. So I know you can do it. I wanted to share this story because it's very important, and this is why I started the podcast, because I realized that it is hard to become a Spoonie and a caregiver. And if you're a single Spoonie, it's even worse. it is even worse. I have talked to people that are single and they're spoonies themselves. They have their own health challenges, and or they're a single mom and they're actually struggling because they feel like they need help. And yes, they do need help, but they just because of that, you shouldn't give up. And I'm gonna talk about something like that in another episode, probably in the podcast. But this particular episode, I want to make it clear, like, changes like this might happen. You're not gonna be prepared. You're not gonna be prepared. It was like the hardest thing that I ever went through with my wife, but to be honest, I am glad that I was able to learn from this experience. The reason why I say that is because it showed what kind of character I have. One of the things that I have always said from the longest, and I talked to my wife about this today, I have always said, like, my wife, unless I can afford everything she needs, like, if my wife can work, she will work, unless I'm making enough money that she doesn't have to work and we can live a comfortable life. But if she can work, she should work. That's just my opinion. Unless she's sick. And before I even met my wife in 2014, a few months before, I dated this girl. I went out on a date with this girl, and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a stay-home mom." That was her first date. She was all like, "I'm gonna be a stay-home mom." And I have always said, like, in my mind, and I told her this, I'm not willing to take care of somebody that can work, especially if we're not able to afford, like, for her to be a stay-home mom. But if my spouse gets sick, then I will work as hard as I can so she doesn't have to worry about anything. I have always said that from a very young age. I think because of what happened between my grandparents. But I have always said that. And then literally years later, I had to put up or shut up. Literally, that's how I feel. Because when my wife got sick, I was like, I have always talked about this. This is the moment of truth. And from that moment, I think it helped me realize that I'm capable of more than what I say I'm capable of. Because it helped me realize that my character is stronger. Because I have always said, like, I will take care of my wife if she's sick. It doesn't matter if she doesn't have to, if she can work, I will take care of her. And then this happened, and I'm like, I'm gonna take care of you. And that's what I've been doing for the last three years. I've been taking care of my wife. I will never tell her otherwise, because I love my wife. And this is what I want you to understand. If you married your wife or your spouse or you have kids, remember, especially with kids, the kid is not gonna be responsible. It's not their fault that they got sick. You know, if they got in an accident because they were curious, kids are curious. Like, you have to understand, it's nobody's fault. Things happen, life happens. But from that moment when you got hit with this incredible reality, you have to understand that this is the time. This is the specific moment when you have to understand what you're capable of. And if I was capable of taking charge of this situation, I know anybody else can do it. One, because I'm stubborn as hell. And two, because at the time of this happening, I was broken. I had quit so many times so many things in my life. I quit dating, or literally I left this girl because she was preparing to get married with me, and I quit. I got scared and I quit. My wife got sick and I didn't get scared. I said, instead of getting scared, I said, this is the moment. This is my moment to shine. For some reason, somehow I decided. So you can make this decision. Don't give up. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't give up on your spouse. If you really love your spouse or your kid, don't give up on them. Don't give up. Because if you support them and they know you're supporting them, they're going to get through this. they're going to be able to work through their illness. That's what I see with my wife. That's why I want to say it. That's why I get so passionate about this, because I see it with my wife. I've been supporting her every step of the way, and she has made tremendous progress in the last 3 years. So I know it's hard. I know how hard it can be. I know how stressful it can be. So that's why this episode is so long, because I want you to grasp the intensity or the stress. I want you to grasp this. I want you to know that this is, that there is possibilities of getting better. And depending on the condition, if it's depression and anxiety or something physical, they can get better. You can get better, but you have to find the right doctor and the right treatment, which is a whole nother search. Like, it's hard, but you can do it. I believe in you. That's why I'm saying this, because I want you to understand that you're not alone. I've been through it. So if you have questions on how to deal with these things, send them to me. I'm willing to answer them. My wife is willing to answer them as well. I want you to not quit on your spouse or on your kid just because they got sick. And on the next episode, I'm going to be talking about other things that have happened. But that's what I wanted to say about on this episode, on this blog. I hope you're enjoying these episodes, the blog and the podcast. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe. You can always share, subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook or on the podcast, on any of the podcast platforms that are listed on the descriptions on the podcast, or just send me an email. I want you to understand that, like I said, you're not alone. And knowing that you're not alone is the best thing, because when this was happening, my wife felt alone and I felt alone. But there were people there for us that helped us. So I want you to know you're not alone. No matter how hard the situation is right now, it can get better. But you have to work together with your kid or with your partner. So, I love you guys. I love doing this. This is like therapy for me as well, and it's helping me becoming a better. It's helping me becoming a better storyteller. I'm able to tell my stories better. So thank you for listening. Thank you for everything, and I'll leave you with this. Always take care of yourself, and have a great day.